Being a merchant marine is an amazing and adventurous career, but there are many sides to this industry they don't tell you about. Today we're going to go over the 5 things that they don't tell you about being a merchant marine. These are all things to consider when pursuing a life on the sea. So let's get right into it. Number 1 on this list of things they don't tell you about being a merchant marine are the people you are going to run into. There are some crazy people out in the shipping industry that you will meet. Straight weirdos. And I'm okay with that. I don't mind it. I'm just giving you a heads up. I had this guy on one of my ships where he would take all of the old, thrown out dairy products. He would collect them out of the trash. He would bring them into his room and he would make yogurt out of it. And he would try to get everyone else on the ship to eat it. He would eat it himself, which is fine. I know no one else was eating it, but the problem there was it was starting to stink in his room. Very, very much so, and it stunk up the whole house. So you'll see people doing weird things like that. But that's not even the worst of it. I can deal with weird. And I can deal with old people. I've had plenty of really old people on ships, 80, 90 years old. Now, I fully support going out there and getting that money at any age and any chance you can. If you can pass the Coast Guard physical, you might as well go try and do it. The problem comes to when you're old and you're not physically capable to keep up with the speed at which things need to be done. In a mooring situation, things need to get done fast, or the lines might get caught up and might be a dangerous situation. But even with that, I can fix that. I can go help them and I can deal with that. It's when I get put on trash duty and I have to go through the trash and sort it, and in that trash is this elderly man's diapers. Months worth of shitty diapers that I have to go through and sort through. I know he was doing it discreetly. He didn't want to get embarrassed. He might have a bowel problem. I don't know. But he was going through, hiding and throwing his poopy diapers away without anyone, trying to have no one realize it. But of course, I had to be put on trash duty. I had to sort it out. If you're 80, 90 years old and you want to be a merchant marine, go right ahead if you can pass a physical. But if you're pooping yourself, please sort that yourself. Don't put it in the waste where everyone else has to do it. And you know when someone else is sorting through it. Sort it through yourself. Have it put out. Make sure someone knows so they know they're not putting their hands in your shit. Okay, even that isn't that bad. Next comes when you have a young kid straight out of the academy with his tight ass coming full-fledged trying to whip you all day. They're trying to impress the captain. You know what I'm talking about. You know those kids put in boss positions. They think they're all that. They're telling you to do this, telling you to do that. They've been on a ship for a few days, a few months maybe. What do they know? I mean, they went to school, I get it. I've met really good young kids and really good leadership skills in mates positions. But I've also met really tight, stick up their ass kids who think they have the opportunity to scream at you and boss you around. I don't like getting told what to do, but if you tell me what to do in a respectful way, I'll listen. If you scream at me and tell me what to do, not gonna fly. So if that ever happens to you, stand up for yourself. Put them in your place. They're a kid. Even if you've been on a ship for one day, someone's screaming at you like that and you did nothing wrong, put them in their place. No one should talk to you like that. But my all-time favorite type of person to meet on a ship is the straight up assholes. These people who will go out of their way to rat on you, go out of their way to get you in trouble. These people will break something. These people will spill paint, do whatever they're not supposed to be doing, and they'll blame it on you. I've seen it. I know I got a story told by a former bosun of mine, where he was working with a daemon, an AB, and that daemon wanted his job. So he would follow him around, and he would deliberately break things, paint the wrong things, do whatever he could wrong. Then he would bring the maid over and he would tell them, this ain't right. This ain't right. And guess who gets yelled at? Guess who gets in trouble? Because the bosun gets in trouble. Because the bosun is responsible for what that AB does. He wanted his job. There are people like that. There are people who will go out there and stab you in the back just for the fun of it. You're on the ship in the middle of the sea with the same 20-something people for months at a time. Some people are just evil. They'll go out of their way just to fuck with you. Now, if someone starts doing that, there's a saying on ships. Go settle it in the forecastle. Go settle it on the bow. Go throw some hands in the forecastle. I know that's happened before. I know people have sorted out their problems with fists in the forecastle. I fully support it if it needs to get done. But yeah, you're gonna meet some interesting people on the ships, and they try not to tell you about these people. But you'll meet them, and it'll surely keep you entertained on a ship. The second thing to consider that they don't tell you about when you're becoming a merchant marine are not all ports are this amazing exotic place. Some ports are actual shitholes. Straight shitholes. I've been to ports where, on a tanker, you pull into this port, you hear going to Louisiana. Awesome. It was Mardi Gras when I went there. It's like, hell yeah, I'm going out. Of course, Louisiana. It's gonna be awesome. You get to this refinery. And this refinery is about an hour drive from the port through a refinery just to get into the city. All you see is refinery, piping for the cargo. Things, it looks like you're in a factory wasteland. It's very miserable. Very miserable. So you end up not going out because it costs more money than it's worth to take a taxi all the way an hour to get to town. So you'll get into ports like that where it's just the cargo handling, and it's not this beautiful place. I've been to many, many beautiful places where you can just walk off the ship and go to the port, and it's amazing. But I've also been to ports where it's strictly the cargo handling. Container ships, you might just have a container after container after container after container, and that's all you see. And they might not even let you leave. They might not let you walk. I know I had actually a friend of mine who tried to walk from the ship through the port and try to get out. He actually got arrested and brought back to the ship. You can't just walk around the port where they do the cargo handling. It's dangerous, and most of the time it's just not allowed. Yeah, you go to these places that you're expecting to get off and go to do these amazing things, and you're just stuck in the middle of this parking lot. And you can't go anywhere. It sucks. It really does suck. But also you can go into very, very shitty places. And I mean, not trying to talk down upon Haiti. But when I went to Haiti, it was ruled, the Port-au-Prince, was getting run by, it said, supposedly to the article, according to the article, it said 94 gangs were running the Port-au-Prince at the time. They assassinated their president a couple months before I went there. So it was run by gangs. The whole country at that time was run by gangs. There was trash floating in the bay, everywhere you can see. When we pulled up to port, there were gang fights and gun violence and burning buildings. We actually had to get down because there were gunfire not far from us. We had to get armed security on board to protect us. We'll get more into that another time about my Haiti trip. Very fascinating. Definitely left a mark on me. But you will run into ports that aren't always desirable. They try to sell you that you're going to go to these amazing places constantly, and I've been to plenty. Spain, Germany, England, Canada. I've been to all these beautiful places. But you also go to these really shit dumps, just straight dumps. That's just the reality of the industry and the reality of the world. Lots of these ships are strictly going to these ports for cargo operations. That's just something you have to understand and get behind. You have to work through it. Say, oh, I'll get in the next port. Nothing you can do about it. Number 3 on this list, on what they don't tell you about being a merchant marine, are the living conditions and the eating conditions on a ship. The possible living conditions and eating conditions on a ship. Not every ship is the same. You gotta remember that. Not every ship is the same. I've been on cruise ships, basically. It wasn't an actual cruise ship, but it was beautiful on the inside. Great food, everything was great about it. But you can also run into ships that the living conditions are terrible. Whereas you're bunking with multiple people in a room, sharing one head. Showers, you don't have your own shower, open showers, where multiple people are in a shower. You know, like how they do it in high school for those football jocks. Eating conditions. If they don't plan out the supplies of the vessel properly, you can get stuck on a long crossing with little to no food, where you're just eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for 12 days. Run out of food, run out of fruit, run out of vegetables very quickly if the steward's department don't manage their supplies properly. So, yeah, I've seen pretty scarce food supplies on a ship, where you're having soup and bread for days. Run out of eggs for breakfast, so you're just eating oatmeal or cereal. You run out of any type of good meat, so you got rice and beans for dinner. There's all different types of situations like that. Can't go wrong with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, though. I'll always get that for backup. But also, when it comes to the living conditions on a ship, you got to consider and think about the weather. The weather can change very rapidly on a ship. You can be in very calm seas one day, sleeping in your bed, nice and peaceful, and when you wake up, you're rolling around the ship. There are times when I've rolled out of my bed. I've rolled completely out of my bed onto the floor, onto the deck of the ship. You have to consider that. You have to consider living in a rough environment. Now, not everyone can do that. Not everyone can leave the security of their home and the safety of their home and the peacefulness of their home to go live on a boat that rocks constantly on a ship. The living conditions can be rough. You can have no good food that you want to eat. You could be sharing a room, sharing a shower with a couple people that you don't want to, that are just too much. And you could be living in rough seas all at the same time. Sharing a room with somebody with no food and in a rough seas, to where you're rolling out of bed every other night. That's just the realism. The realistic side of being a merchant marine that no one tells you about. Number 4 thing to consider, and what they don't tell you about being a merchant marine, and probably my personal least favorite thing about being a merchant marine, is they can cut your overtime. Now, Luckily, I haven't really been on a ship that this has been a problem. But I know this is a problem for some ships. I've heard some certain container ships do this quite often. When you're on a long crossing, say you're crossing the Atlantic, and they don't really want to spend the money on you. So, you'll do your 8 hours of watch, and then you won't be able to do the 4 hours overtime that you expected to do when you signed onto the ship. That's how you make your money. Overtime is how you make your money. If you're not doing overtime, you're basically working another job. So if the mates are redlining your overtime, you're losing a lot of money. If they're redlining your overtime for the whole crossing, say a 12-day crossing, they're redlining you every day almost, you wouldn't see me back on that ship. You're losing more than half your pay, monthly pay, right there. It's ridiculous. And luckily it's not very often, but it is possible, and it is something you have to consider. If they just don't want to spend the money on you that day, or if they have nothing for you that day, they can cut your overtime. I highly recommend doing overtime every chance you can, because you walked onto that ship to make money. Overtime is how you make money. So do it. If you have the opportunity to do it, because one day they may cut it. They may redline you. So watch out for that. That is a major thing to consider, and something that I absolutely hate. The possibility about being a merchant marine is them redlining your overtime. So consider it, remember it. If you hear about it going on a ship, walk out. I've thought about walking off a ship just for redlining. I would walk off a ship. I really would. So keep that in mind. Number 5. What they don't tell you about being a merchant marine. You have to consider how dangerous it is. The reality of it is, it's a dangerous job. You're working in the middle of the ocean on a ship with 20-something people. Besides the fact that you're in the middle of the ocean, that you're dealing with the weather, dealing with the water, the way the world changes, currents change, the wind changes. Besides all that, you're doing dangerous things as your job. I've been up chipping on the mast, high above, harnessed. I've seen mooring lines snap and cut me. I've seen all types of dangerous things where heavy machinery coming by, people's hands get broken quite often. People get injured. I know there was this one time, I don't even know what happened, but I was working and I got back to my room and I felt my knee was throbbing, and my knee was the size of a baseball. Completely popped out of its socket. No idea what happened. But you're just in a more physical, more dangerous scenario constantly. Mooring, like I said, is a very dangerous place to be. The lines can snap at any time. Dealing with tug lines, dealing with the mooring lines and heaving lines all at once, it can be a dangerous place to be. Then, like I said earlier, there are dangerous ports you can go into. You can go to ports that are in wartime. I know there were people who went to Middle Eastern ports and they literally saw missiles flying over them. They were delivering military cargo to a country who needed American support, and they can be in a dangerous spot. And then also, of course, you have to consider pirates. The Somalian pirates. It's going big right now. They're attacking ships left and right over in the Red Sea. You gotta consider that. You gotta consider the possibility that pirates can attack your ship. It's real. Going back into the work life, confined spaces. Another thing to think about. There are many times when you have to go into a very confined space where the oxygen levels might not be correct, and you can run into toxins that have been trapped under these levels of the ship for a long time, and they could kill you. They can kill you. I've been 12 decks below the ship before, pitch black, which is a flashlight, doing inspections of the hull of the ship from the inside, and you have to check carbon levels and the oxygen levels of the hulls to make sure you're able to breathe. If something happened to you down there, you're screwed, buddy. You're screwed. So it's a dangerous work environment. It really is a dangerous work environment. You're dealing with a lot of dangerous things. You're working on cranes, you're working on forklifts. I've seen bad things happen in both. People get hit with the forklift. People just, human error. They're not paying attention. I've seen cars crash into each other. People get into accidents, not always your fault. I've seen the longshoremen whipping around cars, and they get into car accidents. It happens. The crane picking up something, people holding whatever they're picking up with some heaving lines, trying to keep it in place, and the heaving line snapped, the thing goes out of control, and you lose it. Picking up supplies with the crane, it breaks, they fall down. It's a dangerous place. It is a dangerous place. And then don't even consider, you gotta consider sinking of the ship, lifeboat training, firefighting training. There's constantly fires on ships. Constantly. Simple things like laundry room fires. Constant. People don't clean out the lint. Fires on a ship can be a very dangerous thing. Very common. So, these are the things you have to consider about being a merchant marine. You can meet crazy kinds of people, go to shitty ports, the living conditions may not be right, they can cut your overtime, and you can be in a dangerous spot. I still love it. I love being a merchant marine, so after all this, I still highly recommend it, but just things to consider if you want to be a merchant marine.